Good evening. It is, what time is it now? 11:31. It's late, but you know what? I'm always up late anyway. I don't get to bed till 2 or 3 in the morning most nights, so I just felt the urge. Had to make a video real quick because I've been watching some things. I watched a movie tonight, which, as most historical movies do, period pieces do, just got me to thinking about things that I've read and things that I've learned through history, through the study of it. And then I come upstairs and I'm looking at my Facebook feed and I'm seeing some videos shared by some friends, and just, again, gets me to thinking about things. And it formulates thoughts, some ideas, some things I have to get out of my system, if you will. I watched The Alamo, the 2004 version with Dennis Quaid, which, historically speaking, is probably a little bit better than the version with John Wayne in it. Although Hollywood, as they always do, takes license with a lot of things. But I guess one of the things I liked about it is they used reenactors who at least made an effort to make their impressions a little more accurate. Anyway, the story of the Alamo and how it came to be, and then I come up here and I'm looking at videos and I'm seeing what's going on in Australia right now. Now, in the section below the video, I'll post some links, and it's just 3 of them, just to give you some flavor of what's going on in Australia. You've probably already seen a bunch of videos yourself, and it's easy enough to find them. Just type in Australia protests and you'll be inundated. But basically, here's what I want you to consider. There's a couple of things here. Number one, the protests that are going on in Australia right now are, it started with construction workers, and of course it spread to the rest of the population. And they're angry about the lockdowns because they've been locked down for 7 weeks or more. And they've been lied to by their government about why and how long and etc. That shouldn't surprise anybody. And bear in mind that Australia is considered to be a Western democracy. So they are likened to us in the UK and other nations that have democracies. And the thing I wanted to point out, for example, is the government that the Australians are currently protesting against. It's 2 things. One, it's their union bosses who are part of the Labour Party. Now, the Labour Party, and I believe I've seen them spell it Labour, Labour Party, is to the British Empire what liberals are to us. So when you say Labour Party in Australia, think Democrats, think liberals. And most of these construction workers, because their union leaders are Labour Party people, voted for these union leaders and voted for the Labour Party politicians. Well, what's going on now, Australia? Huh? Did anyone try to explain to you what happens when you put liberals in power? Or are you not at all familiar with how they operate? You're surprised that they lied to you? And before you go, I can hear all my right-wing Republican friends now getting all puffed up. Yeah, Republicans would never do that. They don't lie. Okay, whatever. We're talking about the Labour Party right now, okay? But trust me, government, whether it's Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, both want to control you, and they both want to run your life. And they'll both find ways to do it. So now these Australians are protesting the Labour Party that they voted for and put into power. Part of me wants to feel bad for them because of what they're having to deal with. But another part of me is saying, hey, dumbasses, you voted for this. What did you think you were going to get? Did you really believe them when they lied to you? Have you never had politicians lie to you before? I mean, are they different in Australia than they are here? Because I can tell you here in America, if their mouth is moving, they're lying to you about something. So they're protesting. Now, how are they protesting, Floyd? Well, if you watch the videos, you'll see that they're doing what BLM and Antifa did last year here in America. They're taking to the streets. And in a lot of cases, they're not being real polite. They're using some of the same tactics that BLM and Antifa used last year. Now, you might be saying, well, we're better than that. We're not going to do that. We're above that sort of thing. Really? Well, who's getting all the attention? Huh? Are you, with your political activism, waving your signs and your flags, writing to your representatives, going to vote harder next election? Are you being listened to? Or are the people who were in the streets throwing things at people, are they the ones being listened to? Are they the ones getting their way? Are they the ones that the politicians are kowtowing to because the politicians are afraid to piss them off? Look, I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you, I know what I see and I know what I hear, and I know who's getting all the attention. Something about that squeaky wheel that gets the grease. The difference between what I'm advocating and what those people did here in America last year is this. I advocate that we take to the streets as well. But if it should turn violent, it's not like we're turning violent to become less free or to have more restrictions placed on us by government or to become slaves to the government. We would be fighting for freedom. For that freedom that is our birthright as Americans, that is being taken from us right now, primarily by the liberals. But don't act like the conservatives don't do it either. They find ways to restrict your movements and restrict what you can and can't do, not because it harms anybody necessarily, but because they just don't like it. Something else I want you to look at in these videos is who is resisting the protesters in a free, quote unquote, free democracy, in a Western democracy. It's the police. The police are resisting the protesters and turning them back and using their own forms of violence to do it. Now, you're going to say, well, Floyd, what's the point? What are you trying to say? What I'm trying to say is the police don't necessarily protect who you think they protect. Now, this is where my right-wing friends get real upset with me, and I can just feel those knees jerking. But the police do not care about your rights. The police are going to do what their bosses tell them to do. Who are their bosses? The politicians who write the laws that you think are restrictive and taking away your freedom. Those are the people that the police are going to listen to, because those are the people who sign their paychecks. What was it? And I may be paraphrasing, but I think I'm getting this right. Upton Sinclair said, "It is difficult to get a man to understand a thing if not understand." Wait a minute, I'm going to start over because I want to get this right. It is difficult to get a man to understand something if his paycheck depends on his ignorance of that thing. Paycheck. So, yeah, who do you think, which side do you think the police are going to take here in America? If you and me, if we take to the streets like BLM and Antifa did last year, do you think the police are going to be told to stand down? Just back off and let them vent? You think? You know damn well they won't. Their liberal bosses, the ones who write the laws, the ones who sign their paychecks, are going to tell them, go bash some skulls. do what you got to do to shut them down. So at the end of the day, who really gives a damn about your freedom, if not you? And what do you plan to do about it? How much more are we going to take? When do we go and take to the streets? I'm ready. Let's march on DC. Let's march on Richmond. Wherever. Let's get some people. Let's do like we did last year with the Second Amendment protest here in Richmond. You know what the difference is between us and Australia when it comes to protests? We have a Second Amendment. They don't. You think that would make a difference? Oh, I know the hair on the back of your neck standing up now. Floyd, what are you saying? You know damn well what I'm saying. Don't act stupid. Don't be coy. Now, I'm not willing to go out here and be a martyr. I can't do anything by myself. But I asked again, when are we going to take to the streets? When are we going to say we've had enough? And it's not just the politicians. I mean, let's be honest. There's at least almost half of the country that's perfectly okay with what's going on. They're perfectly fine with being slaves to the state and being told what to do and having their movements and their freedoms restricted because somebody sitting behind a desk in Richmond or sitting behind a desk in DC tells them they have to. They believe their TV. They, for whatever reason, and you try to explain it to me because I don't understand it, but for whatever reason, there are at least half the people in this country don't believe that the TV or the politicians or big pharmaceutical would lie to them, despite the fact that all three of those entities have lied on the regular for decades now. I don't know how many examples you need to see before you're convinced, but that's where we are. So people like you and me who know that they're lying and will not allow them to lie to us, we're conspiracy nuts, we're crazy, we're radicals, we're extremists. When in fact, all I want to do is say to people, live your life. Just stop telling me how to live mine. Leave me alone. That's all. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. You want to get a vaccine, get the vaccine. You want to stay at home for 2, 3, or 4 weeks, stay at home. I'm not going to tell you you can't. It's none of my business. But how dare you tell me what I have to do? Who the hell do you think you are? What power do you think you have over me that you can demand that I have to do certain things? You're willing to take away my rights, take away my freedom, just because it makes you more comfortable? I want you, Mr. and Mrs. Liberal, if you're watching this, if you see this somewhere, to think about the things that you advocate for and advocate against, and ask yourself, are you advocating for more freedom or less freedom? And I would ask the right the same thing. When you say we ought to have a law against that, there should be a law about that. Are you advocating for more freedom or less freedom? Is what you're advocating for because it harms other people or because you just don't like it? Prime example, and this has happened in Virginia over the past several years. The sagging pants fashion statement young people, white and black, do today, where they wear their pants down below their ass. There have been some cities here in Virginia who wanted to pass local ordinances outlawing it. There would be fines involved, and if you kept doing it, maybe even jail time. Now, I'll be the first to raise my hand if you say, do you find this fashion trend irritating? Yeah, I do. I think it's stupid. I can't imagine why any sane person would do it. But is it hurting you? Is it taking away any of your freedoms? Is it infringing on your rights? So rather than fine them or put them in jail, how about, it's just, you want to come into my business, pull your pants up. You want to come into my house, pull your pants up. You want to get on this bus, pull your pants up. Why do you have to have laws about everything? Why does everything got to be a law? Because every time you advocate for and vote for someone who will and pass some new law, whether it's needed or not, you have less freedom. But nobody thinks about it in those terms. So just to wind this thing up, protest in Australia against the COVID restrictions. If you think we've got it bad here, man, it sucks in Australia. The police are not necessarily your friends. They're going to do what their bosses tell them to do. And if that means restricting your freedom and your rights and your constitutional rights, that's what they're going to do. Because you and I don't sign their paycheck. Oh, yeah, the money comes out of us, out of our wallet, for sure. But when they get that paycheck, it ain't our signature on it. The laws that they're enforcing, the people that they are protecting, are the very same politicians that you can't stand because they're crooked, lying pieces of shit. But that's who the police are going to take up for. They're not going to take up for you and me. And please don't put something in the comment section about, but that's not all police. I know it's not all police. I even know some police who've said they're not going to do that. And I believe them. But that ain't all the police. There are going to be enough of them that you're going to have to deal with it, whether you like it or not. Your heroes in blue are going to turn against you. You watch and see. And lastly, what's it going to take? When are we going to take to the streets and show the people in Richmond and in D.C. that they should fear us, not the other way around? It's long past time. They need to be reminded because they think they can just do whatever the hell they want to. And most Americans, if they ever knew it at all, have forgotten who the bosses are in this country. It's time to put a stop to it, people. And voting harder in the next election isn't what's going to get it done. I hate to tell it to you that way, but you watch and see. Mark my words. Now, one of the videos I'm posting is from Dan Bongino showing some of the protests in Australia and his commentary. And the reason I'm sharing that is because of what he's saying at the end of his video. It's the same thing I've been saying for years now. There will be a reckoning. It is coming. And those who brought this on will be held accountable. And it ain't going to be pretty. You can get mad at me for saying it if you want to. You can call me radical, crazy, whatever you want. But if I'm going to fight, if I'm going to pick a hill to die on, it's going to be freedom. And if I have to fight to get that freedom, to get it back, I'm willing to. I just wonder how many others are.